Look, if I take away one idea, just one, then it's actually been all worth it. That's the thing I look to do whenever I come to any conference, is actually take away one good idea that they can then implement.
I think my highlight has been Niki Ellis's keynote speaker.
Probably Niki Ellis and this concept of futures thinking in occ health and safety. We tend to always be focused on reactive things, but think about what do we do in the future, where to from here. So yeah, this concept of futures is certainly something that I never thought of before.
I'd say probably Darren Flanagan. I thought it was quite a marvellous presentation. It was very inspiring and very engaging, and I thought it gave the audience something to really hone in on in relation to what might be their not only their OHS responsibilities, but also their moral and ethical obligations in the workplace, and that camaraderie between mates in the workplace and also the management team.
Mr. Flanagan's presentation this morning was awe-inspiring, terrifying, frightening, tear-making, unbelievable. Never believed that all that we saw on the news would be so little of the story.
But the first panel session was interesting because it highlights that a lot of industry, a lot of organisations across many industries had exactly the same problems.
I really got a lot out of seeing the CEO and the head of OHS speak to us from Programmed. I thought they were very good at connecting the CEO culture leadership thing with the fact that the manager of OHS is really aligned to each other. So I thought that was a good pairing.
Harm is only, a day or so away unless you actually reassess the risks every day.
The scope of the presentations, the practicality of it, which I think is very important in occ health and safety, and I think it's been a good program.
Definitely the panel discussion and hearing how personal safety leadership is to each of the panellists. I don't think we as professionals often share on a personal level.
As a safety professional, we really need to understand how the rest of the business works as well, and can't always go pushing our own agenda all the time. If we can sort of show others that we're committed to the rest of the business, we know how the financial side of things works and that sort of thing, then we're probably going to be more influential safety-wise as well.
We've got to be very conscious of younger workers coming through out of school into part-time jobs and then into full-time employment, and they've got to be mentored properly by people who know how to mentor.
I think when you enter the workforce, there's a lot of pressures on you, and I think with a buddy or someone like that can just support you and take that elevated pressure off you, and also just to give you support and help whenever you need it, and it makes that transition so much easier.
I picked up some really good strategies this morning about how we're going to implement the Model Act within our own organisation.
The Barry Sheriff presentation I found very interesting, to go the whole journey that he's been through, the selection, the whole harmonisation concept and framework.
Well, we're planning in our organisation for the changes to the legislation, so it's good to hear from somebody that was an architect in developing them, where to now kind of thing.
I think the harmonisation and the realisation of the impact it will have on organisations with respect to employees and employer groups.
So regardless of whether we think harmonisation is a good thing or a bad thing, whether we think the laws are the best they could be or they could be improved, let's not miss the opportunity that we have today to raise the profile of OHS in the community generally.
Okay, the highlight for me was the harmonisation, whereby you are going in for a single law for occupational health and safety. That was what I actually came to Australia for, to look at that.
Hearing Barry Sheriff's presentations on what's happening with the introduction of the harmonised OHS laws, and some really practical information and some tips and lists, so that'll be really useful for our organisation.
Probably the application of human factors in OHS reporting systems from Michael Flannery from the Queensland University.
I think the session that we went through was a common sense approach to manual strains and sprays. So it was really some practical advice from the presenter.
I thought it was more interactive. She got us up doing things, and it was basically a common sense approach that was a basic measure to fix sprain and strains.
We feel it's incredibly important that we're here. We recognise that a lot of these organisations have outdoor workers who are being exposed to UV, which can lead to skin cancer down the track. So it's incredibly important that they have information about how they can protect themselves and their workers.
Well, I really like Rod Moore's presentation. I thought that he painted a picture of how it all sits together, and he gave us an indication of the sort of process that we need to go through in order to implement safety management within the hierarchy of an organisation. So I thought he actually ticked all the boxes.
Talk about stacking the odds from the chap from Western Australian Water Corporation, because it was related to the challenges facing organisations that have a lot of field workers as well as a lot of office-based workers.
I think the key takeaways for me was the fact that we don't learn from previous incidents.
The panel at the end of the day, 3 top-notch speakers, regulators, academics, topical issues.
It was a great bunch of speakers and really informative, entertaining session as well.
To end the conference with a detailed analysis of what they were talking about, plenty of time for questions, that was a great way to finish.
It's been an excellent conference. It really has been a focus on what is happening in Australia this year. The harmonisation work is a very important year as we move towards 1 January next year. But I think it's also attracted professionals. We've had international guests. We've had such a diversity of streams, as you know, to look at various elements of health and safety and wellness and so on. And I think a lot of people have learnt a lot, but there's been very positive feedback about this being a very successful conference.